For new anglers, one of the most common questions is, what type of fishing license do I need? Whether you're casting a line in a tranquil lake in Ontario or chasing salmon along the coast of British Columbia, knowing the rules of the water ensures both a great fishing experience and the protection of local ecosystems. Every province and territory has specific fishing regulations, making it crucial for anglers to familiarize themselves with the required licenses and permits before they head out. Let's break down the fishing license requirements across Canada, covering both freshwater and saltwater fishing, and the specific rules for various species. This editorial aims to simplify the often confusing process of acquiring the right fishing license in Canada by breaking down the requirements province by province and explaining the different rules for freshwater, saltwater, and specific species like salmon and walleye. Canada is home to a vast number of freshwater lakes, rivers, and streams, and for most provinces, a provincial fishing license is required to fish in these waters. Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan require a sport fishing license, with options for regular or conservation licenses. The latter typically has lower catch limits. Ontario and Quebec require anglers to hold both a general fishing license and sometimes additional tags or permits for species like salmon or trout. In Ontario, for example, anglers need an Ontario Outdoors card, along with either a sport or conservation fishing license. Inland fishing in Newfoundland and Labrador and Prince Edward Island also requires specific licenses, with salmon angling licenses often needed in addition to general permits. Each province offers both resident and non-resident licenses, with Indigenous peoples typically exempt from licensing when fishing for food or ceremonial purposes. These licenses regulate catch limits, seasons, and protected species, ensuring that everyone plays a part in maintaining the health of fish populations. Saltwater fishing regulations fall primarily under federal jurisdiction, and recreational saltwater fishing is more accessible in many provinces. British Columbia requires a tidal water sport fishing license from the federal government, especially for salmon fishing. Anglers also need a salmon conservation stamp if they plan to keep their catch. In provinces like Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island, a license is not required for recreational saltwater fishing, except for certain species like Atlantic salmon, which require special permits. For many coastal provinces, saltwater fishing is less regulated in terms of licensing for common recreational catches, but size and catch limits are strictly enforced to protect marine life. Certain species, due to their high demand or at-risk status, require additional permits or stamps. Salmon fishing, for example, often demands more regulation due to the fish's life cycle and migratory nature. Atlantic salmon requires special licensing in Quebec, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Nova Scotia, even in freshwater environments. Pacific salmon on the west coast requires a salmon conservation stamp, in addition to a tidal fishing license in British Columbia. Other species like walleye, sturgeon, and Arctic char may also have specific regulations depending on the province or territory. For example, in Saskatchewan, special attention is given to northern pike and walleye due to their popularity among anglers. Across Canada, Indigenous peoples have treaty rights to fish for food, social, and ceremonial purposes, without requiring a recreational fishing license. These rights are respected across provinces and are an important part of Indigenous culture and history. However, for non-Indigenous individuals, adherence to provincial and federal regulations is mandatory. Some argue that the complexities of Canada's fishing regulations can be a barrier to entry for new anglers, particularly when licenses and tags vary so much by province, species, and season. However, these regulations serve a crucial purpose: conservation. By protecting vulnerable species, managing fish populations, and ensuring that overfishing doesn't take place, these licenses play a vital role in maintaining Canada's rich biodiversity. Canada's fishing license regulations may seem complex at first glance, but they are essential for the protection of the country's diverse fish populations and ecosystems. Whether you're fishing in the freshwater lakes of Ontario or the tidal waters of British Columbia, obtaining the correct license is key to both a successful and responsible fishing experience. Before your next fishing trip, make sure you check your province's specific regulations and secure the necessary licenses. Whether you're a seasoned angler or a beginner, understanding and following the rules ensures that Canada's waters remain teeming with fish for generations to come. So grab your rod, get your license, and head out to enjoy the rich fishing opportunities Canada has to offer.